Wednesday, day 13. I'm going to do a quick review on using the quadratic formula and the discriminant. So today's notes, quadratic formula and the discriminant. And I had a lot of people asking me, Ms. Knight, when do you use which one? Like, what's the difference? So the discriminant just tells us how many answers there is going to be, and the quadratic actually tells us what answers there are. So for this problem, if it said something like, what's the discriminant? Then I would use b squared minus 4ac. Remember here, a is 8, b is negative 10, and c is 15. Okay, so I'm going to plug that into here. So b squared is negative 10 squared minus 4 times a. A is my 8 and c is 15. Now when I do that, I'm going to actually square this, which is going to get me 100, and then I'm going to multiply that all together. And I get negative 480. So so my answer here is negative 380. Since it's a negative answer, making sure I did that all correct. Since it's a negative answer, if it asks for the discriminant, that is my discriminant. Now remember, the discriminant, the reason why we want to know what the discriminant is it tells us how many solutions we're going to have. Since it's negative, it means there's going to be 0 solutions. All right, so sometimes it'll ask you for the discriminant, and other times it'll say how many solutions. Use the discriminant to tell you how many solutions there are. And you can see that there's going to be no solutions because it's a negative. All right, since there's no solutions, we don't need to worry about using the quadratic to solve it. So let's look at another example. Now, often what I will do is, because I don't really want my a to be negative, I'll divide everything through by a negative. It doesn't really matter. You can do it either way. So I'm going to go ahead and divide everything by negative 1. So I get x squared plus 4x minus 2 equals 0. And now I can go ahead and say, what is the value of a? A is 1, b is 4, and c is negative 2. Remember, that's not something you have to do. All right, so for the quadratic, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, and I'm just going to be plugging in my a, b, and c. So negative 4 All right, if you look here, some people ask me, like I was saying before, about how to do this part. So what you end up doing is go ahead and deal with that, and that gets you 16, and then multiply this. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, negative 4 times negative 2 is plus 8. And then from here, you get 24, over 2. Okay, so at this point, if I want to keep my answer in simplest radical form, which I'm a big fan of, I know a lot of you guys want to turn it into decimals. It depends really what your answer choices are. If you look here, what perfect square goes into 24? Well, I know 4 does. So 4 times 6. And then you would take the square root of 4. And then do you see how you can divide 4 by 2 and you can divide 2 by 2 and everything's on the outside of the radical, so you can simplify that. So you have negative 2 plus or minus radical 6. So that is your answer. If they ask you to keep it in simplest radical form, if they want you to turn it into a decimal, Remember, this is two answers. One is -2 plus radical 6, and the other answer is -2 minus radical 6. Well, the square root of 6 is 2.44. So I could say, what's -2 plus 2.44, or really 45 because of rounding, and then -2 minus 2.45. So that one, you know, I don't love working sideways, but I'm just trying to deal with not a lot of room. -4.45, and this one is going to get me 0.45. So those would be my answers in decimal form. So if we go back to the original question up here, remember what I did is I used the quadratic to get me the answers. So those were the actual answers. If I used the discriminant, which is just the b squared minus 4ac, which is just this part right in here, well, when I did all that part in there, I got 24, which was a positive number. Because it's a positive number, it tells me I'm going to have two solutions. And as you can see with my answer, I had two solutions. So the discriminant tells you how many solutions you're going to have, and the quadratic formula tells you what they actually are.